pre-calc homework 2.5. Actually, 2.4. We are doing page 116. We are going to do 9 through 39, every other odd, and questions 49, 57, 61, and 65. Beginning with question number 9. It is the absolute value 2x plus 3 equals 9. You want to get the absolute value by itself on one side, which it already is. As long as this is a positive number, you're going to break this up into two problems. The two problems are 2x plus 3 equals 9, and 2x plus 3 equals negative 9. These are your two problems. Notice how I did the positive one on the right side and negative one on the left side. All you do is subtract 3, 2x equals negative 12, and divide by 2, x is negative 6. That is one answer. The other answer, subtract 3, 2x equals 6, divide by 2, and x equals 3. You can check these answers and plug them into the original problem and they will both work. It does say if you wanted to graph the answers, it's just simply putting a dot at 3 and a dot at 6. That's the graph of it. We're going to skip number 11 and we're going to do 13. Number 13 says 2x plus 3, absolute value, is equal to 4x minus 1. Now this is an interesting one. When you break this up into two problems, you're going to have 2x plus 3 equals simply 4x minus 1. And then this one is going to be 2x plus 3 equals negative 4x plus 1. You are putting a negative in front of one side, and I just distributed it as well. So for this one, you're going to add 4x to both sides, and you get 6x plus 3 equals 1. Subtract 3, 6x equals negative 2, and divide by 6. So x is equal to negative 1/3. That's one possible answer. The other one, subtract 2x. So you get 3 is equal to 2x minus 1. Add 3, you get 4. I'm sorry, add 1 to 3, you get 4. And divide by 2, and x is 2. That's another possible answer. Now I know that this answer is going to be extraneous because when I plug this number in here, I'm going to get a negative answer on the right side, because 4 times this negative 1/3 is negative, minus 1 is a bigger negative. And I know that whenever I take the absolute value of a number, it's going to come out positive. A positive number doesn't equal a negative number, so this answer I know is extraneous. I'm not going to bother wasting my time checking it because it doesn't work. It can't. So whenever you have variables on the other side and you're solving an absolute value equation, you always want to check for extraneous solutions. Let's try 2. Let's make sure 2 works. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. The absolute value of 7 is 7. And then when you plug 2 in here, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. Does 7 equal 7? Yes, it does. That answer works. We're going to skip 15 and we're going to do number 17. Number 17, we have the absolute value, x squared plus 4x minus 1 equals 4. We're going to break this up into x squared plus 4x minus 1 equals negative 4, or x plus 4x minus 1 equals positive 4. On this side, I'm going to add, I want a 0 on one side. So if I add 4, I get x squared plus 4x plus 3 equals 0. And when you factor this, you get a 3 and a 1. And your possible answers are -3 and -1. The other side, we're going to add 4 to this. If you add 4, subtract 4. My bad, subtract 4. You're going to get x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0. So here we added 4, the opposite. This one we're going to subtract 4, you get -5. So what times what is -5, but adds to be positive 4? And that would be x minus 1 and positive 5. So your possible answers are -5 and 1. So you want to take a second and check your answers to see if they work. Plug them in. And do they work? They all work. -3, -1, -5, and 1. Number, we can skip 19 and question 21. Question 21 is asking you, they give you 2x squared plus 3x equals -2. They want you to explain why there are no real numbers that satisfy this equation. And the reason there's no way you're going to be able to find a number to solve for x to be true for this equation is because when you take the absolute value of any number, no matter what, it's going to come out positive. And a positive number will never equal a -1, so there are no real solutions. No real solutions to this problem. We can skip 23 and we're gonna go to 25. Question 25 says an instrumental measures a wind speed of 20 feet per second. The true wind speed is within 5 feet per second of the measured wind speed. What are the possible values for the true wind speed? So the true wind speed is 20. That's the middle number, but it can range. We can go 5 this way and 5 the other way. So what are these two critical numbers? If we add 5 here, we get 25. If we go back 5, we get 15. So the range of wind speeds are between 15 and 25. This is your halfway number, 20. So when you write this as an absolute value, it's going to be x minus 20 is less than or equal to, and then how many units are you equally apart from 20? And that would be 5. We can skip 27 and do 29. 29, now we are into radicals. We have the square root of 4x plus 9, 4x plus 9 equals 5. Let me rewrite that. 4x plus 9 equals 5. Okay. You want to get your radical by itself, which it is. And now, because it's square root, we're going to square both sides. Now remember, when you have an even index, so square root, fourth root, sixth root, this number must be positive because you can't take the square root of a negative number. So that's like the absolute value one. You want a positive number here. Now, if it's an odd index, like cube root, then you can have a negative there. So we're going to square both sides. You get 4x plus 9. 5 squared is 25, not 10. Now we're going to subtract 9, and you get 16 here. And divide by 4, and x is 4. And you can check that. If you plugged 4 in here, 4 times 4 is 16, plus 9 is 25, square root of 25 is 5, into the original problem. It is 29. Skip 31, we're going to do 33. 33 says the cube root of x squared minus 1 equals 2. Now this could be a negative number because that's a cube root, but we're going to cube both sides. Cube both sides. So you get x squared minus 1 here, and 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Now we're going to add, this is like take the square root of both sides problem, we're going to add 1, and then square root both sides. So you get, don't forget, plus or minus 3. And both answers should work. Because when we square a negative number, you're going to get positive. Let's see, let's make sure. 3 squared is 9, and 9 minus 1 is 8. And is the cube root 2? It sure is. And then same with, if we did negative 3, you get 9, you get the same answer. So that's good. We can skip 35, and we can do 37. 37 is the square root of x plus 7 is equal to x minus 5. Now this one we have to square both sides. So when you square this side, you just get x plus 7. But on the right side, you have to FOIL this. You get x squared minus 10x plus 25. Now you're going to want to get a 0 on one side. So we're going to subtract x and subtract 7. Subtract x and subtract 7. So 0 is x squared minus 11x, and then this is 18, plus 18. Now what two numbers multiply to give you 18, but add to be negative 11? And that would be 9 and 2. So it's x minus 9 and x minus 2. So your possible answers are 9 and 2. Now you're going to want to check these because of the variable on this side. So out of these two, it's possible that one won't work. And the one that does not work on this one is x equals 2. If you plug this number in, right here I know when I take the square root of anything, this has to be a positive number. And x and 2 minus 5 is going to give me a negative number. So if this is extraneous, this answer works. We can skip 39 and we can do 41. I'm sorry, we're not doing 41. We're stopping at 39. Now we're going to go to 49. We're going to do question 49. '49 is root 5x plus 6 equals 3 plus the square root of x plus 3. So we're going to have to square both sides here. And when you square this one, we're going to see that we have to square it again. So on the left, you get 5x plus 6. Now when we FOIL this, if we use our little trick or shortcut, you square the first term, which is 9. You multiply these two together times 2, so 6 root x plus 3, and then square the last term. You get x plus 3 without a radical. Now add your like terms, and we have 9 and 3 is 12. And we have our plus x, and then plus 6 root x plus 3. Next, we want to get this out of here. We're going to subtract 12, and we're going to subtract x. So we end up with 4x minus 6 equals 6 root x plus 3. Next, now we have to square both sides. When we square both sides, we end up getting, we get 4, we're going to square this. So let's square it quickly. We're going to square the first term, which is 16x squared. We're going to multiply these two together and then times it by 2. So 24, and then it's going to be 48x, and then plus 36 equals. And then now square this, we get 36, and then times x plus 3. No more radical. Distribute this, 36x, and then plus 108. Okay. Now we're going to subtract 36x. And this becomes, I'll draw a line here so I don't get confused. We have 16x squared minus 84x, and then subtract 108. And that is going to give you, get my calculator. We have 36 minus 108, and I get negative 72. Now this is a crazy one. We have a 0 on one side. You might want to factor something out, and I think these are all divisible by 4. So if we simplified this, because these are huge numbers, 4 goes into all of these, right? So we end up with, let's make it simpler for us to factor. We end up with 4x squared minus 21x minus 18 equals 0. So when we factor this, we end up with 4x plus 3 times x minus 6. And our answers are negative 3/4 and 6. And when you plug these in, you're going to see that negative 3/4 is extraneous. This does not work. Only x equals 6 works. Next, we're going to do question 57. Question 57 is root x plus 3, x plus 2 equals 3. Root x plus 2 equals 3. Now this one you're going to square both sides. And you get x plus 2 equals 9. You're going to subtract 2. X equals 7. That was easy. 61. Question 61. We have a rational problem here. We have x squared minus 3x plus 2 over x squared plus x minus 6, and we have this equal to 0. So we're going to factor the numerator and the denominator. In the numerator, how are we going to factor this one out? Well, x times x is x squared, and negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2, but adds to be negative 3. In the bottom, we're going to write x plus 3 and x minus 2. These multiply to give you negative 6, but add to be a positive 1. These are going to cancel out. So what we're left with is x minus 1 over x plus 3. If we have a fraction equal to 0, we know that the denominator can't be 0. I know x can't be negative 3, it will be undefined. But I do know if I have a fraction set equal to 0, the numerator must be 0. So what would x have to be so that we get a 0 in the numerator, and that would be x equals 1. So that is your solution. And the last question, number 65. This is a literal equation, and you are asked, you are given k equals the square root of 1 minus x squared over u squared. You're asked to solve this for u. Solve for u. So first of all, we need to get this square root out of here, but right now I have two terms. I want to get this as one term. So I have to get a common denominator here. I'm going to turn 1 into u squared over u squared. So in my numerator, I have the square root of u squared minus x squared all over u squared. Okay, now I'm going to square both sides. If I square both sides, I have k squared, and I have no more radical here. U squared minus x squared over u squared. Now I'm going to cross multiply. K squared times u squared is k squared u squared equals u squared minus x squared. Now what I want to do is get my u's together so that I can factor them out. So I'm going to bring this u squared over on the other side. So k squared u squared minus u squared equals negative x squared. And I'm going to factor out a u squared. So I have k squared minus 1. And now I'm going to divide both sides by k squared over 1, or k squared minus 1. So I have u squared is equal to negative x squared over k squared minus 1. And now I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and your final answer is would be u is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative x squared over k squared minus 1. And we are done.